He saw the first tree shudder and fall far off in the distance. Then he heard his mother call out the kitchen window, "Luke, inside now." He had never disobeyed the order to hide, even as a toddler. Barely able to walk in the backyard's tall grass, he had somehow understood the fear in his mother's voice. But on this day, the day they became taking the woods away, he hesitated. He took one extra breath of the fresh air scented with clover and honeysuckle and coming from far away pine smoke. He laid his hoe down gently and savored one last moment of feeling warm soil beneath his bare feet. He reminded himself, "I will never be allowed outside again. Maybe never again as long as I live." He turned and walked into the house silently as a shadow. "Why?" he asked at the supper table that night. It wasn't a common question in the Garner house. There were plenty of hows. How much rain the backfield get? How's the planning going? Even what's Matthew do with the 5/16 wrench? What's Dad going to do about the busted tire? But why wasn't considered much worth asking. Luke asked again. "Why do you have to sell the woods?" Luke's dad harumphed and paused in the midst of shoveling forkfuls of boiled potatoes into his mouth. "Told you before, we didn't have a choice. Government wanted it." "You can't tell the government no." Mother came over to Luke and gave Luke's shoulder a reassuring squeeze before turning back to the stove. They had defied the government once with Luke. They had taken all the defense they had in them before, maybe more. We wouldn't have sold the woods if we hadn't had to," she said, ladling out thick tomato soup. "The government didn't ask us if we wanted houses there." She pursed her lips as the lid the bowls of soup into the table. But the government's not going to live in the house," Luke protested. At 12 he knew better, but sometimes still pictured the government as a big, mean, fat person, 2 or 3 times as tall as an ordinary man who went around yelling at people, "Not allowed," and "Stop that." It was because all the way his parents and older brothers asked. "Government won't let us plant corn there again. Government's keeping the prices down. Government's not going to like this crop. Probably some of the people who live in those houses will be government workers," Mother said. "You'll all be city people." If he had been allowed, Luke would have gone over to the kitchen window and peered out the woods, trying to umpteenth time to picture rows and rows of houses where the firs and maples and oaks now stood, or had stood. Luke knew from a sneaked peek right before supper that half the trees were now toppled. Some already lay on the ground. Some hang at weird angles from their former lofty positions in the sky. Their absence made everything look different, like a fresh haircut exposing a band of untanned skin on a forehead. Even from deep inside the kitchen, Luke couldn't tell the trees were missing because everything was brighter, more open, scarier. "And then when those people move in, I have to stay away from the windows?" Luke asked. Though he knew the answer. The question made Dad explode. He slammed his hand down on the table. Then you got to stay away now. Everybody and his brothers going to be tramping around back there to see what's going on. They see you. He waved his fork violently. Luke wasn't sure what the gesture meant, but he knew it wasn't good. No one had ever told him exactly what would happen if anyone saw him. Death was what happened to the runt pigs who got stepped on by their stronger brothers and sisters. Death was a fly that stopped buzzing when the swatter hit it. He had a hard time thinking about him. Self in connection with a smashed fly or a dead pig gone stiff in the sun. It made his stomach feel funny even trying. I don't think it's fair. We've got to go. Luke's chores now. Luke's other brother, Mark, grumbled. Can't he go outside some? Maybe at night? Luke waited hopefully for the answer, but Dad just said no, without looking up. It's not fair, Mark said. Mark was the second son, the lucky second. Luke thought when he was feeling sorry for himself. Mark was 2 years older than Luke and barely a year younger than Matthew, the oldest. Matthew and Mark were easily recognizable as brothers. Their faces, their dark hair, their chiseled faces. Luke was fair, smaller boned, softer looking. He often wondered if he'd ever look tougher like them. Somehow he didn't think so. Luke don't do nothing nohow. Matthew jeered. We won't miss his work at all. It's not my fault, Luke protested. I'd help more if Mother laid her hand on his shoulder again. Hush, all of you, she said. Luke will do what he can. He always has. The sound of tires on the gravel driveway came through the open window. Now who? Dad started. Luke knew the rest of his sentence. Could that be? Why were they bothering him now? His first chance all day to sit down. It was a question Luke always heard at the end of from the other side of a door. Today, skittish because the woods came down. He scrambled up faster than usual, dashing for the door to back stairs. He knew without watching that Mother would take his plate from the table and hide it in the cupboard. Would slide his chair back into the corner so it looked like an unneeded spare. In 3 seconds, she would hide all evidence that Luke existed. Just in time to step in the door and offer a weary smile, the fertilizing salesman of the government inspector, whoever else had came and interrupted their supper. And that was chapter 1.